Happy Halloween, everybody.
Fall is definitely in the air.
Yes.
I love fall. Air changes, it's crisp, and the leaves change colors, apples, spices, cute jackets,
I was
sweaters,
just
and
going to
boots.
say that, apple bottom jeans with the boots, with the fur. Okay, sorry.
I don't think I could love you more.
My daughter was a huge fan of The Masked Singer. Celebrity gets asked, why did you do The Masked Singer? They say, to be in this costume, I can either reinvent myself or be my true self, so I'm safe in the mask. In this holiday of masks, Halloween, I think about how sometimes through anonymity, one can find identity and feel comfortable with one's identity.
A mask can actually be a tool to help you understand and discover yourself, but that tool can't be the only tool that you use. Then it becomes about the tool and not about the person using it.
Don a mask, learn about oneself, but let's not keep it as a shell.
Welcome to Simply Enough. This is Zachary and Elizabeth, and thanks for tuning in.
If you're liking our podcast, we'd love it if you'd share with your friends and family.
And then rate and review to raise our visibility and spread the message of enoughness.
We love you, and remember, you are simply enough.
Just as you are.
Period.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Simply Enough. I'm Mr. Zachary Linnert.
And I'm Dr. Elizabeth Ignacio.
Dr. Ignacio, fall is definitely in the air out here in Chicago.
Fall.
Yeah, I have to admit, when we moved to Hawaii, there were so many beautiful things about moving to Hawaii, but we missed the seasons. And
Yes.
I love fall. I grew up in Southern California, and then I went to college in Indiana, and I had never experienced the seasons the way that I did in the Midwest.
Mm-hmm.
And when the air changes and it gets crisp and the leaves start to fall and change colors, and there's apples and spices, and the air just gets cooler, and you get to wear cute jackets and sweaters.
I was just
and
going to
boots.
say that, and the clothes with the coats and the boots.
It's just, yeah, I'm with you there.
Apple bottom jeans with the boots with the fur. Okay, sorry. That was a total tangent.
Oh my gosh. I am often
I
very
do. I
effusive
love
in my
fall.
love for you. I don't think I could love you more. You just broke into that.
But I mean, I do see, like, you totally got me giddy because I absolutely agree. I love Hawaii. Hawaii is paradise, but boy, yes, do I miss the seasons, having lived on the East Coast for 13 years.
Mhm.
And to jump on your comments, I'm so excited for my daughter and our beloved listeners and viewers. You've heard me speak so much of this milestone in my life, in my family's life. So my daughter's on the East Coast, so I'm excited for her to be able to experience the seasons, and especially I love the fall, and so she'll get to experience for the first time all of those things that you described. But it is bittersweet because it also means, with her so far away, that there are certain traditions that, we won't be able to partake and share. And one little ritual, maybe not tradition, but ritual, is my daughter was a huge fan of a show called The Masked Singer.
Oh,
and yes. And, she loves it for those that don't know. So The Masked Singer is where they get celebrities and they wear full on head to toe costumes, kind of like the mascots that you see for sports teams and for schools. And it's a singing competition. And you don't know, obviously, who they are until they get voted off, and then they reveal who's inside. And so it was a really beloved ritual and tradition shared with myself and my daughter. And it meant so much to Gracie, to my daughter. And I asked her, I'm kind of like, why do you like this so much? And she said that she actually likes learning the stories of the celebrities inside the costume. And I said, what do you mean learn about it? This is when we were first, she first pulled me into this. And what it is that they tell you little hints about the celebrities each week so that you guess who the singer is, because the microphone, even they change the voice a little bit, not during the singing, but when they answer the question. So you really can't recognize their voice other than when they sing. So little hints about their personal lives come out. And what's amazing, though, is actually how very personal the the hints are about their childhood, about struggles in life, about their insecurities. So it's really funny how one learns a lot about the journey of these celebrities. Gracie and I'll admit, love that component of the show as much as it's kind of just fun to watch these, costume mascots singing. But it's also, once they do get revealed, once a star gets voted off and they take off their mask and it's all a shock as to who it is, almost to a person, the celebrity gets asked, why did you do this? Why did you agree to do something like The Masked Singer? And almost to a person, almost to a contestant, they say, because I really wanted to step out of my comfort zone and really discover myself. And, it's so funny how actually being able to be in this costume, I can kind of either reinvent myself or be my true self, because nobody knows it's me. So I'm kind of safe in the mask. Well, long story longer, one of the questions on Gracie's college application to her dream school was, if you ever had to teach a course, what would the name of the course be, and a brief synopsis? And by brief, I think it was only like 200, 200 characters, not words, 200 characters. So it was like a couple of sentences.
Wow.
And so Gracie's answer, nobody copy this now, everybody, for those students who might be listening, but it was along the lines of The Masked Singer, finding one's identity through anonymity.
Yes.
And I hope that was one of the reasons. I think that's one of the reasons why Gracie got accepted into her dream school and didn't have to apply anywhere else, was there was actually, as cute and creative and kitschy and pop culture as that answer was of hers, there is actually a true depth to it in terms of, by anonymity in this social media, everything out in the open world, how sometimes through anonymity, one can find identity and feel comfortable with one's identity. In this holiday of masks of Halloween, I just can't help but think about The Masked Singer, which a new season just came out. And so Gracie and I have figured out a way how we're going to be able to share in that ritual via watch party. But then also made me think about just masks in general and anonymity and finding one's identity.
I have a number of friends who are drag queens, and often I watch RuPaul's Drag Race. RuPaul recently did a similar type of show to The Masked Singer. I'm not a Masked Singer watcher. I've heard about it, and I know many people enjoy it for the same reasons that you do, which is they get to learn about a celebrity with facts and things that they wouldn't probably have otherwise had access to. I never thought about the idea of discovering oneself via anonymity, but because I don't watch the show, I don't know it in that degree. But in RuPaul's Drag Race, RuPaul did a similar show where she had celebrities in drag, and then eventually you try to guess who the celebrity is. This is a build off of what happens in her regular seasons, where there's always kind of a transformation episode where the queens will work with somebody and help them find their drag persona. And they say something similar. Now we know who they are, but occasionally it's like a straight cisgendered heterosexual male who now is putting on high heels and leggings or tights or a dress and makeup and hair. And many times they come through and say something similar, right? Which is like, I didn't know this about myself, or I didn't know that I had this feminine side, or it could be feminine, and then they also say that they learn about what it's like for women. And that's a whole nother discussion, but I know. But drag queens will often say that when they become their drag persona, it is a different expression of who they are that they wouldn't have otherwise known had they not gotten into the world of drag. And so while they're not really wearing a mask per se, they are wearing a mask, and the makeup and the hair and the outfits and everything like that. I've never done drag. I kind of want to do it. I don't know.
You do wear the kinky boots though.
I do. Yes. It is fascinating. It really is. What is it about the mask?
It's freeing. So another thing that I have to share about Gracie is she was gunning for the opportunity to be the mascot for her college. And I was like, why would you want to do that? Like me with my judgmental, like, why would you want to do that? And she's like, are you kidding? Because then I can do anything and I can reach out and be friendly and be silly, all while donning the costume of the mascot. But I actually do get and understand the liberation in wearing the costume. One can tap into a side of oneself that doesn't, either the person doesn't want to, say the cisgendered heterosexual male, or somebody that's usually quite reserved and feels that in one's occupation or status in life needs to be reserved. And therefore, or even as a student who wants to be a mascot, who almost feels like that he or she has to restrain herself because it's not cool, to show school spirit and to high five kids and shimmy and shake, that they feel safe in donning a mask or in wearing a costume. That I actually do understand how liberating that could be.
Well, one of our very first episodes, I caught you off guard because I shared with you that, and I've talked many times on the podcast about my own journey through accepting my body and dealing with doubts and insecurities about my physique and whatnot, particularly because I grew up overweight. And one of the ways in which I wanted to get over it, you're laughing because you know where I'm going with this. So I literally removed the mask, so to speak, by going to a clothing optional beach. Yep. But it in a way was a mask of like, okay, now I'm going to put on the mask of somebody who's confident in their body and feels secure to go to this public beach and not wear any clothing. And so while I wasn't wearing anything necessarily, it was still a mask. It still was. And not to the same degree of like putting on all the makeup and everything, but there was still like a gearing up, so to speak. Who am I? What is this about myself? How can I discover myself and learn more about myself and also feel liberated in my appreciation for my understanding of and respect for my body in the way that it was. So a little bit of a connection to a previous episode. But
yeah. And boy, do I love it. I still, though I knew where you were going with, it still like brings about the same reaction. Though you were very PC in saying clothing optional. It was more shock value when you said, I went to a nude beach. That's what he's talking about, everybody.
That's right.
The need to liberate oneself because of social constraints or social assumptions, we actually very much do see at Halloween. Relative to Halloween costumes, I mean, I could be very judgmental and used to be very judgmental when I would say that it was the day that women let out their inner hoe. Meaning that is the day where you see, I have never seen so many French maids and naughty librarians and short dressed nurse costumes. And admittedly, with disdain and being judgmental, I literally would think, oh, Halloween, it's a day where they're just letting out their inner hoe. How wrong of me and how unfair of me. Because you know what? If a woman is feeling repressed, her whole year, and she does want to let out her sexual, sensual side, and she feels confident enough to wear, those kind of clothes, now I say more power to you then. And damn girl, you look good. In needing to wear a costume to get in touch with that side of her, more power to her. And the fact that I don't feel comfortable and I myself wouldn't do that because I just don't feel comfortable. I mean, like I'm not a bikini girl. I've always been like a t-shirt and board shorts girl. So I'm not comfortable in the naughty librarian look and the French maid short skirt, short dress, nurse's uniform, or nurse's costume, I should say. Look, who am I though to judge those that feel confident that they can wear that and want to wear that? And maybe they feel, imprisoned and restrained and judged on the other days. So this liberates them to be able to. More power to them then.
Yeah. Couldn't agree more. And I have to say that I similarly felt like you that Halloween ended up being a holiday where they could wear the least amount of clothes possible. I had my own issues with my own body and everything. Halloween wasn't the holiday where I felt compelled to do it. I literally had to go to a nude beach to feel that, which is in many ways not much different. And you're absolutely right. I too have come to that appreciation, and also share that I don't think it's just women. The queer men that I know, Halloween for many queer men can be a moment too where they will wear the Spartan costume and they show off their arms and they don't have a shirt on, or they're a waiter, or there's some, insert profession or title here, and then just like remove 10 articles of clothing. And I similarly felt the same way, but have come to the place of recognizing some friends in particular were radiant in those costumes. And to see them just glow with confidence and discovery and self-assuredness, I don't know how you couldn't see that as just a beautiful moment for them, even captured, in and around a holiday. I didn't go further by asking them how maybe that transformed their life going forward, if it did at all. But what I saw on that one night was transformative, and can only believe that in the discovery of oneself, there has to be something lasting that you take with you. Like for myself, I learned a lot about me and my body by going to that clothing optional beach and quote unquote wearing that mask. I applaud these moments, and I applaud them also from the perspective of an actor and a performer who gets on stage in a literal costume. And when you are trying to connect yourself to your character so that you can really relate yourself to that person and then tell their story, you will always learn something about yourself. I was recently in a show in Hawaii, the show Waitress. In the show, it deals with a lot of very adult, tough content about abuse, domestic abuse, etc. Our protagonist, lead female, is married to a man. That character in the show is a tough character. It's a tough character because of who he represents and everything, but it's also a tough character for the actor that's playing that role to step into it and to try to find something likable about that person in order to present it and to be it. That is one of an actor's first jobs, is to believe that your character is somewhat relatable or likable to yourself. So in thinking about all of the roles in the show that I feel like I could audition for, what's interesting is not only did I think that I could do that role, but then I thought, I don't want to put that mask on because I don't want to discover the part of myself that may have some anger or may have some feelings of self-doubt or anxiety, and so there was a resistance to that mask because I didn't want to discover those things, even though I know I'm not that character at all. But even coming close, I recognize that the reverse opportunity of like, that's a mask I do not want to put on. Interesting, right?
Of course, we don't want to be wearing masks our whole life, right? But I think actually there is, what I'm coming to understand is there is liberation and finding identity in the anonymity behind the mask. But then at the end of Masked Singer, each person does remove the mask and reveal themselves, and then not only reveal themselves, but reveal themselves to oneself, to their selves, because that's when they reflect and say, I had stage fright and I battled that. Or it's amazing how many of the celebrities are singers, but because they had a period or a season in life of self-doubt, they actually were very afraid to do this again for fear that it might validate the very reasons why they were having self-doubt. But the anonymity behind the mask liberated them. And then from that, also, again, nearly to a person, they had a takeaway from this in that now I know that I can do this, or now this has ignited the flame that I want to do this, or now I recognize that I did this for a closer relationship with my father. So I'm going to reach out to my father. Like, it's amazing how many lessons and action items and action points to move forward have come from wearing the mask, self-reflecting, and then removing the mask and revealing. So in the fun and games of Halloween, I don't know, take it as an opportunity to look at oneself and say, why am I enjoying this mask so much? What is this saying about me? What might this compel me to move forward with?
I can't think of a stronger connection to Simply Enough than what you just said, because I think we start to uncover maybe labels or identities in and ourselves that we want to own, that maybe we don't know how we feel about them or whatnot. And then some maybe internalized narratives that we've also kept telling ourselves, we can't do this, we can't do that, or we aren't this, or we aren't that, when in fact, maybe you are, And
yes.
So I love this. I really do. So thank you so much for bringing it up. And you have an ability to take something in pop culture and like to bring out like the meat of it. No joke. To our listeners and viewers, how many people would be like, wow, this Masked Singer is super deep? But look at you, Dr. Ignacio, you and Gracie. Shout out to you guys.
I think one can either don a mask and then live behind it.
Yeah.
Then one is unseen.
Yeah.
Or don a mask to liberate oneself, learn about oneself, to then reveal and expose to oneself and then to others another facet. Mm-hmm. Because again, we're multifaceted, we're diamonds, right? And to get in touch with the reserved, studious side, or get in touch with the adventurous, clothing optional side, or get in touch with the sensual, sexual side, or the loud and outspoken and demonstrative in behavior side. Mm-hmm. A mask can be a tool, but let's not keep it as a shell.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah. Very good clarification for us there. I'm certainly wearing clothes, so you can see that I'm not using my nudity as my permanent shell. I'm making light, but no, it's a spot on point, because you're right. That could become the exterior by which you show the world all the time. And then there is that barrier between, I would say, not only yourself and the world, but also yourself and yourself.
Yes,
right?
Exactly.
You've brought up My Kinky Boots a number of times. For those of you that don't know, Kinky Boots is a musical with music by Cyndi Lauper. The point of the show is truly just about loving everybody. I mean, that really is what the show is about. But the protagonist in it, the character that I played, Charlie, ends up having to wear the kinky boots at the end of the show because he's got this fashion show that he's supposed to be a part of, and he's got nobody there because he's alienated everybody from him. And so he still needs to go on stage, and he's got the boots on. And what is fascinating about what you're saying is Charlie is in charge of a factory that produces these shoes. And most of the employees of that factory would, one, have never believed that they were making shoes for drag queens, and two, would have never believed that they themselves would wear them out in public and whatnot. And so you see there's a great big celebration at the end where they do. Why I bring this up is because I don't think that I would have ever worn those kinds of boots in my life, let alone know that I enjoy wearing them. Not because they make me taller, which I love, because I think I was really supposed to be 6'1", but now I'm a mere 5'9". But by literally
there's nothing mere about you.
Right. Thank you. So by literally having to put that costume on, I not only learned that I enjoy wearing those shoes. I'm not going to wear them every day, but I clearly bought them because I enjoy how they make me feel. I enjoy how I stand taller and I stand more proud of who I am. And there's some takeaways, use that word, that I was given in that moment, and how grateful I am to have had that experience, because otherwise, without doing the show, I don't know that I would have ever learned that by myself. So actually becoming a performer has invited me into characters that have helped me uncover me, and then how I can continue to live authentically who I am, as well as have different masks available to put on should I want, put on the kinky boots and go out at Halloween or at another night. So even in performing, without realizing how much the putting of a mask on was asked of me in that show, but I also realized just how much I learned about myself in the process.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Donning a costume and what that brings out in somebody can help not only in a performance, but in real life. Yeah. And what I mean by that is I'm just giggling because many people who know me know how much I love Wonder Woman. So I have so much merch of Wonder Woman. In fact, right now I've got my Wonder Woman mug and my Wonder Woman water bottle. But I also have a Wonder Woman bustier, a Wonder Woman cape. And where I'm going with this is is though I don't wear it, looking at it and looking at my Wonder Woman merch really empowers me. That may sound silly, but literally looking at that merch and looking at the cape and looking at the Wonder Woman bustier, though I don't even have to wear it, but still that costume and what it represents empowers me to how I show up, especially sometimes show up in difficult or nervous situations. And it's not unlike, I can't remember the psychologist's name. She had a great YouTube on it in terms of a power pose. And how the benefits of power pose before presentations, meetings, or test taking has improved outcome. And donning that persona or assuming that power pose of, say, Wonder Woman, how that can get me in touch with that side of myself to embolden and empower myself to show up. Again, just shows how there is use and benefit from the masks and the costumes, but be cognizant of how it can apply in real life as opposed to living behind the mask or shielding oneself behind the costume.
And that balance, I think, is a key part of what we're sharing today and how it connects with Simply Enough. As always, you provide that balance. So thank you for saying that, because let me build off that a little bit. Please. As a school administrator, I had to have difficult conversations with parents, with teachers, whatnot. And I had a mentor that I really valued tremendously. I saw the way that she would handle difficult conversations, and I saw the way that she would approach crucial feedback with another individual. And so when I was preparing to have a difficult conversation, I asked her for advice. I said, what can you give me to help go into this? Because I'm nervous and I want to make sure that this goes well, even though I understand that this is a particularly difficult conversation to have. And she said, I envision somebody who is strong and confident and yet grounded and at peace. And so then she shared who she thinks of. So she thinks of a specific person. And then she said something kind of like what we're saying is, I pictured how that person would act, and then I try to take on that persona. I said, okay, well, that's interesting. And I kind of went to where you were saying, which is then how do you make sure that you're not that person? Like, so, and she said, because I'm not. So obviously I'm going to take it and I'm going to be me as my own interpretation of that person. What was fascinating, I said, well, then how do you come out of it? Right? Because that's not you all the time. And she said, I do have a moment where once the conversation is over, I'll close the door, or I will find time later on my day if I can't, and just kind of shed that, but also think about what I learned about myself in that moment. I can have a crucial conversation. It cannot go well. And that doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with me or wrong with the way that it went. That was just the circumstances of it. So what she did was she also built in reflection time after to help preserve who she was and find what she can keep or what was crucial for that moment. And that she can tap into should she need it again, but not something that she carried with her all the time. And I just found that incredibly powerful. And
what she does, if I can just say, she does, because it's not like shape shifting.
Correct.
That's really important. But she does carry it with her, and she does. Those elements of that persona that she then took upon herself and melded it with her so that it's her, not the persona. I mean, I'm me. I'm not Princess Diana, Wonder Woman, but those elements, she brought that into her, made it her own, and it became a part of her, but that's not wholly her. Yes. Wholly, WHOLLY, but it is now another facet of her diamond. So it's not so much that she is relinquishing and shedding because it was fake or it was false or it was external. She actually internalized it. It is a part of her. She just doesn't always tap into that.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's how it becomes shedding of the costume or shedding of the mask, but yet internalizing what is real and authentic of what she wanted from that persona, that costume, that mask.
Yes. Absolutely. To your point, there were times when we were, let's say, meeting with a group of teachers or whatever, and a conversation kind of went into a little bit of a tense place where there are differences of opinion and it's getting a little, what's going to happen? And I could see her lean into that. So to your point, it wasn't like she had to like gear up for it, right? It was an extension of her. It's just that facet of the diamond she wanted to show. And then maybe other times she didn't want to show that. So I learned a lot from that, because I think I mistakenly thought that, okay, if I have to have a difficult conversation, I need to be confident and strong, and I need to be all of these things as if they weren't who I was, rather than seeing or envisioning what it looks like, and then envisioning what that looks like for me, and then finding that or discovering it within. Really helps.
This
really helps.
part of me is this authentic part of me that is there, but isn't always needed or appropriate. But this part of me is going to be present in this moment.
Which is why those moments when I was being asked by somebody else to be blank, insert characteristic here, and I knew that wasn't a characteristic of me, that was not a mask I was going to put on. It was very clear I didn't want to wear that, because that was not authentic to who I was. Right. Does that make sense too? So
it totally makes sense. And I can't help but think of a number of people, actually, to no fault of their own. A lot of it is grooming and training and that kind of stuff, but where they show up very saccharine and everything is peachy keen, but that's all on the surface, rather than acknowledging and recognizing that there are many sides to a person, many facets to a person, when they only show up with this one facade. I was going to say one face, but really French, it's actually facade. Then it truly does become, that's when a mask is permanent, because there are no subtle nuances. There is no tapping into all that is within oneself.
There are moments when somebody is wearing a literal mask. I get very uncomfortable and I don't want to engage or talk with that person. There's something about me that understands that this is fake. It's not real. There's something inauthentic, and that also sets me off, and I don't like it. That's not true of all the masks, but sometimes there are just some masks that are very off-putting for me. Similarly, I do have moments where I recognize that somebody is coming at me with that kind of facade, and I struggle to connect with them. And I struggle to connect with them because instinctually, I feel that there's a barrier between my authentic self and that person's authentic self, and getting through that barrier is impossible. And so because of that, my natural reaction is to kind of pull back, because I recognize that connection is next to impossible or unlikely, because there is a mask between us.
I giggle because I think, I'll speak for myself, my natural tendency, which part of my Simply Enough process is recognizing that my natural tendency is, and I think many people do this, is kind of a either or thinking, like the polarity. And so coming in with the story of how wonderful and beneficial the anonymity of donning a mask can then be revelatory upon removing the mask, I was struggling, as we also have to talk about how masks are not beneficial. And it all depends on the use of it, the longevity of the mask, whether the mask is to shield or be too protective, if worn too long. There's just so many nuances to the wearing or the hiding behind a mask.
I don't think
but you
so.
know what I'm saying? Like at first I was like, isn't it great to wear a mascot uniform and reveal oneself? But then there's also but sometimes we hide behind the masks or hide within the costume. The safety, familiarity, and comfort sometimes of living within the costume or behind the mask keeps us from exploring with compassion what it is that we're looking for. Why do we feel comfortable in this mask? Why do we feel more comfortable in the hoodie, shoulders, hunched over with the headphones on? I think in that comfort and familiarity and maybe even complacency within a costume or behind a mask, that's where it becomes a shield and a barrier, whether we're the one donning it or whether it's the person we're trying to relate to right now is donning it.
I think it is a complex topic. What I appreciate the most about bringing up this complex topic, knowing that there are all these nuances, is that we are exploring the idea that a mask can actually be a tool to help you understand and discover yourself. But because it's a tool, we have to look at it judiciously. We have to look at it and explore it and really analyze how that tool can serve you, but how that tool can also not serve you as well. Yes. So there is, I think, joy in finding that out. I really do. And I think that that's how we started the episode. And I think that's what we're continuing as the episode goes along. But I also think it has to come with a disclaimer. It has to come with caveats, or it has to come with a balanced perspective, because to your point, that tool, one, can't serve you all the time. And two, that tool can't be the only tool that you use, because then it becomes about the tool and not about the person using it.
I'm freaking I am loving you. I want to hug you through this Zoom camera. That was perfect. That was spot on. That was so relieving. That was so unburdening. And I think the educator, the teacher in us almost thought, or I know I almost felt like, I'm not coming to aha moments. And this is the one takeaway. There's actually multiple takeaways in multiple situations. And it is just like you said, the awareness of here's a hammer, but just because I have a hammer, not everything is a nail. So that's actually liberating and enticing and curiosity provoking when one can look at oneself in everyday moments. Am I wearing a mask? Why am I wearing a mask? Yep. What's behind the mask? What does it say about me? Oh, I can remove the mask now and take what I learned and that kind of thing. And even, is this person I'm relating to right now wearing a mask? What is it saying about him or her? Not without judgment, but with curiosity and maybe even compassion. Now, with that compassion, it still might be like, but I cannot get past this mask. So there's not a connection here. That's okay. But it's just a more kind of eyes open awareness about masks. Oh my God, your point. It's just, we may have to end it like 2 minutes ago with what you said and just like end it there. That's beautiful. Well,
You're adorable. No, we have said in a previous episode, we don't need to give you permission, right? You can give yourself permission. And I'm just going to think out loud for a second. Prior to this episode, one, I've never thought about masks this way. So yay for us for reframing it. No, really, because I think I labeled them, right, in a way. And similarly, I never considered the benefit or the permission that I can give myself to actually put it on to see what I will learn about myself, that ultimately it comes back to me. And constantly checking in with yourself and asking yourself why you're putting it on or why you're not putting it on, and really coming back to simply you. Then a mask is just one tool that you have to get to know yourself better. And I will say, of the many masks that I've put on and still put on, I am now going to look back and be grateful for those moments and truly say thank you in ways that I probably hadn't ever considered before, because they have helped me understand myself better. And literally the shedding of clothes to put on the mask of somebody who's confident about their body was the mask that I was putting on at that point. I'm still on that journey, but I'm grateful that I had that opportunity. And now, in a way, I am, after this episode, am probably a little more likely to actually do it again.
And it's not a mask at that point.
Correct.
Because like we talked about, your friend taking these elements of the persona, or me like looking at Wonder Woman and taking in those and internalizing, it no longer becomes an external mask that one has to wear. Yeah. It is an internal characteristic that we carry with ourselves, that we bring out of ourselves.
Yeah. So try it on.
I think that's what Halloween allows people to do. But if we can tap into that self-exploration and self-discovery of other sides of ourselves, throughout the year, as opposed to just one day out of the year, I think what richer lives we would all have, just because, it's kind of a self-examined life. And then in doing so and knowing ourselves better, we then show up more authentically without having to wear a mask and without having to don a costume.
Done. Mic drop. Boom.
Happy Halloween, everybody.
Happy Halloween. Go out there, put the kinky boots on, be a naughty nurse.
I myself have never been a big Halloween person, but I have to say, I think I'm going to be looking at it very differently because of this episode, because of the Masked Singer, because of Gracie's suggestion of identity through anonymity, and then carry what has been, revealed to oneself, carry that and let that be shown to the world.
Because you're all diamonds.
We all are diamonds.
You are all diamonds with beautiful facets.
Mm-hmm. Remember, everybody.
You are simply enough.
Just as you are. Period.
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween, everybody. Bye.